Hello! I am so unbelievably excited for the upcoming release of the Avatar the Last Airbender Magic the Gathering set. Avatar is a story that's really special to me. I have a lot of fond memories of watching Avatar the Last Airbender when I was young, and I definitely did run around my backyard with a blue arrow painted on my forehead pretending to be the Avatar. So to celebrate this upcoming release, I wanted to learn a little bit more about the making of this game. So I asked my friend Chris Mooney, who is the lead game designer for this set, if they'd be willing to chat with me and talk a little bit about this set and their experience making it, because this IP is really special to them too. It's actually kind of how we became friends, was bonding over our mutual love of Avatar the Last Airbender. And so I'm super excited they were willing to take the time to chat with me. And so without further ado, let's jump in and chat a little bit more about the making of Avatar the Last Airbender Magic the Gathering set. Hey! I'm so excited. Chris, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about the set.
I'm obsessed with Avatar the Last Airbender and Magic, so I'm super thrilled for this set.
It is two of my, greatest loves come together, really. So it's so exciting to be able to, first of all, to work on it and make it, but then also to finally be able to talk about it in the public.
Yeah, and speaking about making it, can you take a second to introduce yourself and what role you had with this new Avatar the Last Airbender Magic the Gathering set?
So I'm Chris Mooney. I am a senior game designer from Wizards of the Coast. And on the Avatar set, I was the lead designer. So typically on a Magic set, there are 3 stages of design. There's exploratory, vision, and set design, which is kind of like the early, middle, and later stages. Although set design is kind of like the second half. Normally, someone would lead the early part and then hand off to a different person to lead the later part. But this was kind of a unique situation where I actually led all 3 parts of design. So not only was I super involved, but I was truly the lead from the beginning to end for this set. So it's very special to me. I don't even know if I'll do that for another set. So it's really a once in a lifetime experience almost.
Wow, that's so cool. And you mentioned that you really feel connected to this IP. So not only did you get to be involved with the entire process, but this is like a story that you love. So when you first found out that there would be an Avatar the Last Airbender Universes Beyond set, what was your feeling? How did you feel about that?
I was super excited. I mean, I knew that there are a lot of Avatar fans at Wizards. So of course, when we started doing Universes Beyond, I was like, maybe it'll happen. But Avatar just hit its 20th anniversary, which is a huge milestone.
That makes me feel so old.
Prior to this, I had worked on a couple of different Universes Beyond, Doctor Who, Fallout, but there was also, Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings. All of these things are much older than Avatar. So at the time, I was thinking like, oh, well, one day maybe we'll get to Avatar, but it probably won't be for a while because we tend to go for these kind of older properties that have more material or like a longer fan base. So I was thrilled when I heard that Avatar was getting picked. I was really excited. I love Fallout and I love Doctor Who. That's why I worked on those. But truly Avatar, even prior to working at Wizards, I've always said that Avatar is my #1 TV show of all time. And so just to get the chance to work on it, it's truly amazing.
That's like so special. I know that was actually an IP that we talked about long before I even knew this was going to be a Magic set. I remember we were chatting at dinner one time and I was like, oh my gosh, I love Avatar. That's like a show from my childhood.
Throughout my life, as a kid, in college, at working at Wizards, I've always loved talking with people about Avatar. It's just one of my favorite things to do. So now those conversations have this extra layer of dynamic where not only is it something that I spent so much time with as a fan, but now also as a creator, I've been able to work with it.
It's it must be kind of surreal and wild to feel like you have gotten to now be a part of a world that you've been a fan of for so long. Because I do feel like this set is letting kind of me and all fans interact with the Avatar universe in a new way. And so for you to get to help shape that is so cool.
Yeah, of course, I'm on the game design side, not the art side. But one of the cool things about working with Avatar Studios on the art was, the creators were involved. They love to, take a look at all their partnerships and just kind of make sure that they have that personal Avatar touch. And one of the things that they said was like, some of this art looks like how we wish the show could have looked. Like if we had infinite budget, we would have made it look this good. And so that was really awesome to hear. And then for me, yeah, I mean, it's obviously when we're working on the set, we're not really trying to rewrite or redefine the show. But in a couple places, we do try to expand out, right? Look at things that maybe were a little bit off screen, or maybe got hinted at or implied at, but we never got to see. So those things are really cool. My favorite little thing is that we didn't know, like, so we have to put creature types on everything. That's like one of the unique things, is sort of things that maybe were a little undefined before. Well, we have to put an actual type on it. So my favorite thing was when we made Momo, and it was like, he's a lemur. Momo feels like he's a hybrid animal. And so we were like, he's kind of like a bat lemur, but that actually wasn't ever an official, like, you know, hybrid animal designation for Momo. So we put bat lemur on the creature type, and we were like, hey, you know, Avatar Studios, is this okay? Like, does this make sense? And they were like, yep, that's good. And so that's just like a cool little thing of being like, hey, like, that's a little bit of, you know, no one in the show is ever going to stop and say, like, you know, Momo, he is a bat lemur, you know. So those little tiny things of getting to actually work with the creators and, you know, fill in those little gaps. That's stuff that is really unique and awesome for getting to work on this.
The hybrid animals are actually one of my favorite parts. I think that's like so fun, and it's so cute, and the fact that the mechanics of the cards kind of helped shape that a little bit, it's really neat.
Yeah, the hybrid animals are something where one of the things that can be challenging for some of the Universes Beyond sets is they don't always have good extras, is what I would say. So like, I need just, you know, some cards, especially at low rarities, that are just going to be fine, limited cards. They're kind of a little bit simpler, more straightforward, or playing a specific role. And a lot of times in Universes Beyond, you know, everything that everybody loves are like main characters with names and backstories that really care. What's great about the hybrid animals is that they can really kind of fill whatever role we need them to fill. And they are so appealing even to people who have no idea what the show is about. It's like, you don't need to know anything, you know, to know that like a turtle duck is cute, right? And there is no story there. There's no like extra lore. It's just, in this world there are turtle ducks and they're adorable. And so it was
the hippo cow.
Oh man, there's so many fun ones. One of the fun stories is this is from the art book. So we were Avatar Studios gave us the kind of like the official art books to use as kind of reference material. And one of the things in the art book is a story about how, right, when they originally came up with this world, they didn't think of the hybrid animals as a part of it. That was just something that some of the artists in season 1 thought would be funny. And so they would just draw them and put them in the show. And everybody loved them so much that they just kept on making more and more and more. And the creators were actually like, hey, maybe we should cool it on like this hybrid animal thing. It's not really connected, but the artists would not stop. And of course now there's so many, you know, they made it into a joke in the show, and there's so many of them have become a beloved part of the series. But again, that's just a great story about how like nothing that is so beloved, you know, comes into the world like fully formed, right? It's always a like creation of many different people collaborating and ideas coming from all sorts of unexpected places.
I absolutely love that, because to me the hybrid animals are such like a quintessential or such an iconic part of it. But to hear kind of that they sort of became more relevant as the show went on and people just sort of combined their ideas, it was like a collaborative story. And so actually, you've kind of touched on these a little bit, but I'm curious, are there any other deep cut references that like made it into the mechanics of the cards you could share with us? Something I love about Universes Beyond are the fact that the characters, they feel like they fit their mechanics so perfectly. Like when I look at like Fire Lord Azula, who I'm definitely building a commander deck around, I'm like, this feels perfect. The mechanics, it just like, it feels like it fits really well. So are there any other like deep cut references you could share?
The thing about Avatar that I think makes it different from a lot of these other Universes Beyond, it's maybe most similar to Lord of the Rings, but you know, Avatar is only 3 seasons of television, only 61 episodes. I think that I looked the other day, and it's like, if you watched all of Avatar, it'd be like 24 hours long, which, sounds like a lot until you compare it to Doctor Who or Fallout or Final Fantasy, right? Like how long and expansive and potentially multiple universes that they contain. And what that means ultimately is that, like, for Avatar, a lot of the things that could be considered deep cuts felt like they were so necessary for us. If we were working with a much longer series, there are certain little jokes and elements like Cactus Juice or Melon Lord that would feel like deep cuts because they're like such a specific joke from one episode. But for us, like, because of how short the show really is in the grand scheme of things, those things didn't feel like, oh, we really got to go deep and get this. This was like, no, like, this is a funny joke and we have enough space to really hit all of them. So that was something that was really unique about working on Avatar is, there's like a few throwaway lines here and there that we did not get. But for the most part, I feel like we really captured everything that we thought was going to be super fun and get the fans excited. Another great example of this is Sokka's haiku, which is, again, only like, it's like a mini story inside an episode about a bunch of mini stories, right? So, and it ultimately, it's not important. Like, it's not important to the overall plot. Nothing happens there. It's just funny. But it was the kind of thing where not only was it like, we have the space to explore all of these different fun moments, but also it felt really necessary, because one of the things that when we were talking about what makes Avatar Avatar, like what is going to make the set feel like the show, a big part of that was it needs to have the humor and the charm. Like, if you're not laughing at some of the things that you're reading or seeing, then it just feels too serious and too like not really true to the essence, to the vibes of that original show. So like the haiku is something where it was really funny. I put it in the set and I was kind of like, generally we don't like kind of going to that extent to be silly. But it never got any pushback at any point. Anytime anybody read it, they were like, this is awesome. It has to stay like this. We can't change this. I thought I was going to have to get in some fights and be like, no, you don't understand. It's really important. But no, everyone was like, that's hilarious. Like, no changes. Like, leave it as is. So that's probably one of my favorite cards in the set, just because for many years, there's always been the joke of like, oh, what if we made a card that was a haiku? And so actually finding a place where it wasn't just a joke, but it actually is a joke that made sense in context of what we were making, it's awesome.
I feel like that one was so perfect. I saw the card and immediately squealed. And I'm so glad to hear that, like, this was a thought that everybody else agreed to. It was like, yeah, no, we need this. This needs to stay. Because it captures both the humor of the show and it still is a mechanically interesting and really good card. And so I think it's perfect. Okay, now I already mentioned one commander that I'm excited to build around. I'm curious because you also play Magic. You had your hands in a lot of the cards in this set, but are there any cards that have jumped out at you? Do you plan to build a commander deck around any of these new cards?
It's really hard because it's almost, because I'm, made the set, they're kind of like all my children, so it almost feels so hard to have to choose, which I would build. I think, of course, if I had to pick one, it would be the ultimate Aang, the fourth stage of Aang. Partially because it would let me play with all the other cards in the set too, right? Like, he wants you to play with all those cards. But also because that was definitely the card that we spent the most time on, making sure that it felt right to play as a commander. For all of these cards, we're testing them in various different formats. But when it comes to Aang, we spent a lot of extra time making sure that the commander deck that you would build would, be really fun to play, because it is so specific in what it's looking for. So I think that's something. I could imagine a world where I build all of them. It's really tough to say. I work on a lot of commander pre-con decks. So because I do that for work, I tend to not build as many commanders in my free time. I tend to want to play other types of Magic in my free time. And when I play Commander, I usually like to borrow other people's decks to see what kind of stuff they built. That's what I love. but for Avatar, it's such a special set for me that I know I'll definitely be building a few. I'll just have to get back into the swing of things.
You know, the 5-color Aang is just, it's not only stunning, like the artwork on like the different variations is so pretty, but I do really like that it focuses on all the different types of bending, and it does really feel like it pulls from a lot of different areas of the rest of the set, which is super cool.
The Mythic Aang was really a card where we were struggling for a long time to figure out, like, I mean, it's the ultimate form of Aang. It should care about all the elements, but like, how are we going to make that work? Because we spent some time trying to come up with text that did all of them. And it's just so difficult because, you know, like, already you're saying we're not going to put reminder text on it. So you're just going to look at it and be like, what does this even do? Like, what does it mean? You know, are we going to split it up where it's like there's 2 on the front and 2 on the back and all this sort of stuff? And, you know, at some point I just had the idea of, what if it just said, whenever you do one of these things, you get a bonus? Like, that's how the card will care. Like, instead of trying to represent doing all of them, it's like you have to go on a journey yourself to find all of the different elements and put them in a deck. Not only was that such a fun kind of meta deck building story to tell, but it also let us do this thing. I was so excited where I was like, we were making this card and I was like, I need this card to be the first card that we show. And just reading the sentence, whenever you waterbend, earthbend, firebend, or airbend, before you know anything else, before you don't know what any of those words actually mean, it's just such an exciting moment of wonder and, you know, mystery and anticipation for the set. So that was another thing where I was like, man, I don't know if other people are going to like this idea. I'm going to pitch that we should show this card first and not tell anyone what it means and let them stew in that anticipation. And I thought I was going to get pushback, and instead everyone was like, yeah, no, that's awesome. We have to do that.
Oh my gosh, that is such a cool moment. And also I think it does capture part of, like, you know, you think of the hero's journey. I think something that really struck me when I was young watching Avatar is you feel like you're going on this journey with Aang. And so I think with this set, like, letting you have your own journey as you're, you know, mastering these different, you know, elements and bending is really special. And I think that, you know, these iconic stories, they're like so fun to engage with in Magic. And I also think it's just so cool and such a neat way for people to come into Magic and also revisit these IPs. So like, it's both ways. It flows both ways. Like, if you already like the story, oh, let me try it in Magic. Or if you are a huge Magic fan and you've never seen this story, I hope people feel inspired to watch Avatar now, like, that they're engaging with this set.
I mean, we definitely see that happening where when a Universes Beyond is coming out, a lot of people like will be posting online about like, oh, I'm watching the show, or I just finished the show, or I'm showing the show to my spouse for the first time. So that's always awesome to see. And on top of that, you know, one of the things about working with a show that's a little bit shorter, a little bit tighter in terms of the content compared to some other Universes Beyond, is that we have a lot more space to like really dive into the specific stories of all the characters. You know, all the main characters have multiple versions that show them throughout the progression of the story, and there's a lot of story moments that we get to hit. So we really don't have to leave very much out. We can really like capture the essence behind all of these characters and their stories.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. I'm super, super excited for the set, and thanks for sharing kind of what you love about it and some of the stories from behind the scenes.
Thanks for having me. Always love talking about Avatar, and of course, always love talking with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.